He scooped up small radio stations Bell said were no longer viable.
It's never been a business you can run by a spreadsheet.
His secret? Figure out what each local audience needs.
There's lots of things that we can own that Facebook's not going to do and Google's not going to do.
Jon Pole is president and co-founder of My Broadcasting Corporation, focused on small and mid-sized markets in Ontario. We spoke about the 4 new stations that he's sure will be winners. Jon, you're at your radio station in Renfrew near Ottawa. I'm in the cross-country checkup studio here in Vancouver. Let's talk a little radio.
Let's do it.
Bell sold 45 radio stations, and one of the executives, I was reading this quote in Canadian press, said the sale happened because, quote, they're not viable businesses anymore. Mm-hmm. But you and your partner bought 4 of them. Why do you think it's viable?
One, I think that's maybe one of the worst things that's ever been said in Canadian radio about Canadian radio. It was a bit shocking. I hope it was taken out of context and or a misquote, because my observation would be that perhaps they're not viable businesses in the model that Bell Media is accustomed to. They are certainly very viable business models in the way we run small and medium market radio stations. So when I look to the horizon, like you would any business, radio unfortunately has this shine on it that it's not viable for the future, like who listens to the radio, when in reality all the stats show that since the 50s all the way through to today, the amount of Canadians that listen to radio every week hasn't really changed. And when you compare that to how many things they could do instead. So when I look at these markets and other markets that were for sale that we were also interested in, I looked at it and said, hey, can we go into that market and run a good business that helps our customers? We have 2 customers, we have listeners and we have advertisers. So can we help our advertisers sell more shoes, sell more groceries, get more people to sign on for insurance or whatever it is? And can we do something for our listeners that they'll listen for an extended period of time, so they hear the commercials and the radios work, and that we give them something in return, which is information they probably can't get anywhere else.
If you didn't own other radio stations already, I would think, well, maybe he's a bit naive. Maybe he's about to get a cold, hard lesson in running radio. But you're in this business already. Sometimes when people make acquisitions, especially when the seller says it's not viable, they come in and they slash jobs and they slash salaries. So what's your plan coming into these stations?
Our plan's the exact opposite. When I look at the markets that we've purchased, Kingston and Brockville, they're great markets. Like Kingston and Brockville are on the border, they're on the 401, they're halfway between big cities, they have tourism, they have healthcare, they have great retail, they're just really great markets. So we're going to add staff, we're going to build news departments, we're going to add account executives that can go out and help our business community in the marketplace. So I think if you put together a really good product and you care about your staff and you help your staff grow and teach them and train them and provide good leadership, and then you do the same in the community. Radio has always had a really good, successful run at, if you give a lot to the community, they'll take care of you.
And we're looking at the Raiders' regular season wrapping up tomorrow night at home against Frankfurt. So this is a 7:30 start. We will have all the live play-by-play of this, 88.7 My FM.
You love radio. You worked from the time you were 15. I started in radio at 17. I love it as well. And I wonder, listening to you talk, I mean, you're a business person, and you're running this presumably as a business. You and your partner expect to make money. But I wonder do you think we need more people like you, and there are other buyers of those other Bell stations, and fewer big corporations, particularly corporations like Bell, fewer of those in the radio business? What's your view of that?
I think the challenge versus big versus small is more of conglomerate versus big. So if you look at Bell, for example, Bell has internet and they have cable and they have wireless and cell phones and kiosks and towers they rent and radio stations and TV. And I think sometimes when you get that big versus hyper-focused on one industry or brand or product, I think that's maybe where it gets watered down. And radio is a business it's never been a business you can run by a spreadsheet, because it's about the people. It's about the people that work for you, It's about what the people are talking about, and it's about the people that are consuming it liking those people. So a spreadsheet can't do that. So I think whenever you get in any business to a side where the spreadsheet is dictating the results, I think it's going to be troubling.
There was a romance to radio. I have said the story many times. Growing up in New Brunswick, it got dark. I would listen to radio stations from Boston and New York and fell in love with that. Couldn't believe the day that I walked into a radio station in Amherst. I was in the business. Tiny station in a small town, but I was in the business. And every job I've had since then, there's a direct line to that first job back at CKDH. I don't know if kids still have that radio dream, Jon, but if they do, if they're watching, maybe they're in a broadcasting school and they're thinking like that executive said, radio's not viable, radio's dying. What do you say to that young person?
I think the problem with the sexiness of radio is, like, my kids are a perfect example. They come in and they look at our studios and they go, yeah, my phone does all this. And the reality is it does. Like when you started and I did, we had skills that no one else understood. Now, I'm going to guess someone who's not really tech savvy could come in and hit play on the next song because it's like hitting play on Netflix. That said, I think if you look at what makes radio exciting and what has always made radio exciting, and really what makes media exciting, it's answering the questions that people have. It's being part of an event where someone raises money for a hospital or you help a child who's suffering from cancer. It's being there for the championship game. It's coming up with a crazy contest where people have to do something silly, but we all do it together and we're all playing along. It's always been that. And I look at radio and I go, okay, maybe that doesn't happen the same way. Like radio, we used to own, like when we started My FM, the dream was we wanted to answer an important question, which was, on the day of a snowstorm, we didn't want a little girl at the end of a laneway waiting for a bus that's not coming. And flash forward to today, we don't own that anymore. You can get bus cancellations via text, via Facebook, via email blasts, via going to a website, and via radio. But we used to own it. Well, now we just have to figure out what can we own. Because there's lots of things that we can own that Facebook's not going to do and Google's not going to do. And the people here in Renfrew or at our stations in St. Thomas or Niagara or wherever they are, if we own that thing that no one else can do, it's the same. It's just different. So I'm still very excited about radio. I'm still very excited about what we do. I know the audience is excited. We had a young broadcaster, fresh out of school. She was doing the news in one of our small markets, and she pronounced the name of one of the towns wrong. Honest mistake. We've all been there.
Yep, I've done that.
I had email after email after email of listeners upset that she was saying the name wrong, which is great because if they didn't care, they wouldn't email us. And that shows that they care.
Well, there's still some magic in radio left, and your company is one of the ones trying to make that happen. So it has been fantastic talking to you, and we'll keep an eye on how things go in Brockville and Kingston with those new stations.
Well, I look forward to it, and I hope we can meet again and meet in person, Ian, and I can give you a tour and we can get you on the air somewhere.
Okay, for sure. Thank you.